Welcome, Facebook. This is Adam Ashba, president and realtor of Ashmont Realty, and welcome to Ashmont Live, exclusively on Facebook. We have a special guest today, and I'm really excited to talk to Angela Reid. I've known Angela a long time. Hey, say hi to everybody. Angela Reid is with Revolution Mortgage, and I wanted to do this video with her because we're going to talk about working with a loan officer for realtors. Because as a new agent, I always consider us the quarterback. And I told you that yesterday, didn't I, Angela? And but as on a football team, because it's fall, right? And football's in the air. But I wanted to, as a quarterback, we cannot do it all on our own. We need partners. And one of the partners is your loan officer. And they're, I think, one of the most important partner because they are the king because they hold the gold. And whoever has the money, so if they don't want to lend to our clients, then we can't get the deal done. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and talk about basics, everything from transitioning clients to your lender, just understanding things such as conditions of like what needs to be placed on your contract and the process. Once you get in a contract, how realtors like myself, how do we come into play? I mean, how much do we get into Angela's business, for example, and how much we get involved? So we're going to cover that in a lot more, all right after this. All right, Angela, let's get into it. So working with loan officers for realtors. Okay. So again, Angela, I've known you a long time and you've done a lot of loans and I'm excited for you to kind of give us some insight from a realtor's perspective, especially for new agents. This is more geared towards new agents. Because once you do a deal or two, you'll kind of get the ebb and flow of working with the loan officer. So the first question is like, how are we going to transition? Let's use an example. I'm at a barbecue and my cousin David, who I actually have a cousin David. So he wants to buy a house, which he doesn't, but maybe we'll get him to buy one sometime. So he wants to buy a home. And I say, yeah, of course. Yeah. And the first thing I would do is say, well, hey, David, do you where you want to move to and what's your, I kind of ask some high level questions. Where do you want to move to? When are you thinking about doing this? And then one of the very important questions that I ask will be like, have you talked to the bank or have you won the lottery or what's causing all this purchase? And if he says no, because usually clients, even if they've bought a house before, they might say, no, I haven't talked to anyone yet. I haven't talked to the lender about it. And as a realtor, I'm going to start with this first and I'm going to transition it to you, Angela. I'm the type of agent, and I tell all of our agents that if you have someone that's interested in buying a house, like go ahead and show them a house or two. It's okay. Because once they get, maybe when they get, when I say that, because some realtors that I know refuse. If you do not have a pre-approval from a bank, they are not even going to show you a house yet. I disagree with that, but that's each to their own. And that basically comes down to time and money and what have you. But I'm a firm believer is maybe get their feet wet, show them a house or two to see what's out and what's available. And then from there, if they're still serious about it, then that's when we transition it to Angela. So all right, Angela. So I got someone that's very interested in buying a house, but they have no idea how much they can afford, what the monthly payment's going to be. So how does an agent warm handoff cousin David to you?
Right. And honestly, Adam, I really like that you show houses, even if they're not pre-approved, just to kind of have a realistic idea of what it will look like. Mm-hmm. Because if they haven't bought a house for 5, 6 plus years, the market is completely different. So what they thought $100,000 house would look like, it doesn't look like that anymore. So I do like that idea.
True.
But
Yeah.
I mean, kind of the good, bad, and the ugly of it is, I mean, there's always the handoffs where I get the contact from you and I immediately call them. As well as they get my contact. That's probably some of the best ways. Some of the contacts can be through my app, can be my phone number, can be my email address, as well as for them. If they have a phone number, email, the best way. Some of the ways not to do this, I would highly suggest not to, would be just kind of saying, hey, reach out to Angela and give them my phone number, where I have no way of following up with them. I didn't even know that they were in contact with you in the process of starting to look for a house. Those are probably the worst ones, because at some point they never call. I never know about it. And then they're on to another lender that may not produce, you know, a closing deal.
Yeah, that case in point, like, I can't stress this enough to new agents, that if you rely on your client to call your loan officer, it'll never happen. It's just not as silly as that sounds. Like, well, buying a house is the most important thing they'll ever do in their life, maybe besides getting married and having kids, right? But it's true. They just don't get around
to
it.
Busy. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Life takes over.
Absolutely. So this is what I do, and you correct me if I'm getting out of line here, Angela. But what I do is I'll say, hey, cousin David, Angela Reid, she's great. Here's her information. She's really great. She's here in Columbus. She can help you out. And I'm going to let her know that, kind of what you're thinking about doing, and reach out to her. And I'm going to give her your contact information too. And just pick her brain. That's what I always say. Like, pick her brain, tell her what you're trying to do. If it's something you're serious about, what we need is, we got to get you pre-approved, because you can't purchase anything unless you have what's called a pre-approval letter. So that's kind of what I do. Then I'll let you know, hey, Angela, cousin David's calling you about it. But again, more, like you said, you're going to reach out to him. You'll beat him to the punch 99% of the time. Yeah. And
I love the fact that you say, let's pick your brain, because I feel like at that point, all the cards are on the table. There's no mystery behind where you work or how long you've worked there, because those are some key things on getting that pre-approval. And if you're not honest and upfront with your lender, you're not going to get that pre-approval, or you'll get somewhere through the contract and not be able to close because of those hiccups.
That is a good point. I am a little bit, we'll dive into this and we'll get the meat and potatoes of the contract, but I'm a little bit more hands-off. I'm the firm believer. Some agents, for all you newbies, like, some agents just want to be part of the whole process. They literally want to be sitting in your room, Angela, next to their client. I don't want to do that. And I'll tell you why. For me personally, it's because sometimes, I don't want to get into their personal business. Now, you're going to know a lot about your clients just because they trust you and you're part of that process. But there's going to be some financial things that, one, you don't even need to know. You don't need to know it for any reason at all. And two, there's nothing I can do to help them. And sometimes you can just get in the way. And that's one thing I want to talk about today is agents make a huge mistake. I hear this all the time from lenders, is they get in the way of things, because a lot of times they trust you, the realtor, more than the mortgage officer, than Angela, just because they have history with you. Cousin David's going to trust me more than you, right? Just because we have history, right? And if I somehow open my mouth, especially if I'm a new agent, and I open my mouth and say something that's not really accurate, because mortgage underwriting, conditions
changes.
Yes, daily. Well, it used to. Yeah, back in 2009, 10, and 11, it changed every day. And you would have clients that would be approved in the process, ready to close, and they would come out with some FHA change, and then they would be declined like within 3 days of closing. And you as an agent, you have no control over that. And you don't know. So I think sometimes, and we'll cover this here shortly, is don't step on your loan officer's toes. Just let them do their job. Now, I'll push back on you a little, Angela, too, though. You got to keep in check because they get busy. And if something doesn't seem right, you're always welcome to say, hey, did we get that? You can follow up on it, and we'll talk about that here in a second. So, you mentioned too, what I think it's cool because I love technology and things and paperless is when you talk about like your app. Talk a little bit about this app that you guys.
Yeah, so this app is co-branded for the realtors. So let's say right now on Adam's phone, he's got a Revolution app that's co-branded with Ashmont Realty as well as Revolution. It has my picture, has his picture, and he can actually send this to Cousin David with a text or an email. And once Cousin David gets it, he can click that link, download his version of the app to his phone. It has all of my contact information. It has loan calculators. It has what if scenarios as far as what I qualify for with this kind of a payment. And you can save these. You can see the pie charts of what your payment breakdown will be, change it from house to house as you're looking. So it's a very informative app, very, very sophisticated app. This app will also help you as a realtor to see the big milestones. When the app was completed, it will show you when the app is in processing, when it's in underwriting, when it's conditionally approved, and when it's clear to close. So all you have to do is just kind of see it. You also get notifications that those milestones are happening.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So it kind of keeps you in the loop, and not many places have that. One thing I want to preface is how long does it take to do a pre-approval, just for everybody?
So once all the documents are in, it could take, I would say, a couple hours. It's not that long. It's just a lot of numbers as far as what the customer wants and is looking for in a house. It might be 500, it might be 200. Will they qualify for that based on their W-2s, based on their tax returns, based on their current job situation, as well as what debts they have? So all of that kind of play into it. And it doesn't take long once I have the right documents. It may be hard to get those documents because a lot of times, like I said before, life happens. They forget to send in the W-2s or they forget to show me a full month of pay stub. So I don't know how much they make to really qualify them without that document.
So I think to clarify for new agents, one, it doesn't take long to do it. So for example, you took Cousin David out, look at a house or a condo or something over the weekend, and he's like, Adam, I want to do this. But I don't know if I can afford this. I don't know. Okay, David, we're going to get a hold of Angela, right? And the nice thing is, if that house is still in contract, which they go fast, right? But you can get them pre-approved in about the same day, right? Typically, if you get right. So this isn't like, okay, it'll be a 2-week process, because the first thing you need, and we're almost there in this conversation, is a pre-approval letter. So this is kind of what I rattle off to clients because when we're at that point, clients will say, okay, I don't know what that is. Well, it's basically saying on paper that you are kind of conditionally approved. There's no guarantees that you can purchase a house up to a certain price. And we need that for the contract. But so a lot of times they'll say, well, what does Angela need from me? What do they need to know? I mean, what kind of questions would they ask me? And this is what I say. And if I'm missing anything, fill in the blanks here, Angela. But I'll say, well, they're going to check your credit score.
Correct.
Yep. If you want to do this, you could pick her brain and ask general questions, but if you want to get a pre-approval, they're going to check your credit score. They're going to want to know where you work, how long, how much money you make. And then, if you're a 9-to-5 guy, unlike Angela and I, right, they might need a pay stub, not mine. I'm sorry. They will need a pay stub. They might need tax returns. I mean, these are things that they're going to need. So just maybe go home tonight and start gathering those up because I can probably bet the farm they're going to need those things plus extra stuff. And then I go a step further. Oh, bank statements. Yeah, I'm sorry. Bank statements. And I go a little step further and I say this, whatever Angela wants, you give it to her because if you don't get it approved and you won't get your money. So even if she asks for something twice, even though you think it's stupid, this isn't Angela being mean. These are rules that she has to follow. Angela doesn't make the rules. So she's just making sure she gets the information to to satisfy the rules, so they'll release your money at the time to buy that house.
Right.
And that just sets the stage, saying so, and that sets the stage like this isn't going to be easy. You're going to have a lot of stuff to get from Angela's going to ask for a lot of stuff. So they're already ready. They're already ready that Angela's going to be mean and ask for all this stuff. But guess what? When they meet Angela and they see how nice she is, and all he really wanted a couple big statements. My pace, that wasn't that bad. So you set the bar like, oh, it's going to be hard. And then when it's up here, then they're like, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought. And you'll say, great. And that's that under promise, over deliver. That's the mentality I want all the agents to have. Don't scare them away, but you got to make sure that there's going to be some things they're going to ask for, and just do it. So, did I miss anything with that?
No, that was good for the pre-approval, and also with the pre-approvals that I like to do, especially in this market, because things fall in contract like overnight, sometimes within hours of it being listed. So for me as a lender, I want to ensure that my customer, our client, will have the best chance of getting that house. So on my pre-approvals, there are things that I do to make sure we look good when that offer comes to that listing agent. So there's things that I may write on there saying, with this whole gap appraisal situation, maybe I've seen bank statements and I can verify that the money that is sitting in that account are good. Maybe they've got $50,000 that they can use towards this gap asset. I can actually put that on there. There's things that I can do as far as maybe sending it all the way through underwriting if it's a small business customer, because a lot of times small business owners, as you know, they may make a lot of money in their business, but when it comes to the expenses, they may not show their true income because the expenses and write-offs. So it's a lot lower. And in that situation, I would rather know that up front at the pre-approval versus conditionally approved and you're declined.
Yeah, because what Angela's saying is basically if your client's a business owner, right? Like me, I'm a business owner. I don't work 9 to 5 and get a W-2. Is that doesn't, it can make it a little harder, but she's probably going to need some more information, tax returns and etc. So but don't let that scare you away. I mean, if they are interested, I mean, that's the first step, is to, and the thing about it, this is all done. You can do it online. You could probably do it over the phone, right, Angela, if they just wanted to verbally do it. They don't have to get in their car. And how many clients drive to your office to do a pre-approval?
There are few. There are
are there?
There may be a small little handful, but there are a few people that still want to meet face to face.
This is even before COVID, right?
Before COVID, yeah.
Yeah, but so it wasn't like this was COVID driven. Like just people didn't. If they could do it online, or some people, maybe they just aren't. They're nervous about doing something online,
and they can't do it online. There's times where this was like your cousin David. I won't meet cousin David until the closing table.
Yeah,
because we've done everything over the app. We've communicated through email, and the one time I'm seeing their client is at the closing table.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's just how it works. So don't feel that that's weird, for all you agents. So, okay. So now, something that's very dear to us agents is get that pre-approval letter, right? So we got the pre-approval letter, and explain to us in layman's terms what a pre-approval letter is, and then I'll kind of tell the realtors what we do with it.
Right. So this pre-approval letter then says to you as a realtor that Uncle David or Cousin David is pre-approved for a $500,000 house. Okay. This means that we've looked at his debts, we've looked at his score, we've looked at his income, and at a first glance, everything looks like it would fit perfectly, meaning a $500,000 house with taxes for that location homeowners insurance, and maybe homeowners association fee or condo association fee all fits what he can use as debt. And everything looks good right now. There's no issues right now.
Right. No guarantees, though.
No guarantees. I mean, we still need to send it to the underwriter.
Always,
still needs to be conditional approved. But up front, everything looks good for this $500,000 house as long as he keeps his payment within this. There may be a situation where cousin David has to sell his house before he can be fully conditionally approved. Or maybe he's got something that needs to be paid off, like a large collection that needs to be paid off or dealt with before we can move to the next stage.
Yep. Okay. And that's in good transition, Angela. So understanding the conditions of the financing. So basically what means this, you do get a pre-approval letter, but I always call it like, but just because you have a pre-approval letter, there could be basically rules saying, hey, we'll give cousin David this loan, but we have some things that need to be done or something needs to happen. So, and you might say, well, what are you talking about? What does that mean? Well, one, maybe he has an existing house now. Maybe he has a house that he lives in now, and the bank, Angela says, yeah, we'll give him a loan for $500,000, but he's got to sell this house first. Okay. And but now we're not going to dive into that today because that could be a whole nother episode. But there could be that. It could be, well, we'll give it to him, but he has an IRS lien that needs satisfied.
Yeah.
Or something else that's part of your contract, realtors, is they want to know what type of mortgage loan that it is. Is it going to be a conventional loan? Is it going to be an FHA loan? Or a VA loan or what have you, because that is something that they ask us on the contract. What type of financing is this going to be? Now, we're not going to dive into that today either. That's a whole another tutorial. So, but once you get your pre-approval letter, for the sake of conversation, we'll just say it's pretty clean. It's just, yep, he's a first-time home buyer. He can buy a $500,000 house. Go and start looking. Okay. So I can tell you this, and be prepared, realtors. Cousin David, you talked to him at the barbecue, and he's a renter. We'll say he's renting a house, and he's like, everyone wants to buy a house 6 months to a year. They always say that 6 months to a year from now, maybe next year. Okay, great. Once you get them pre-approved, and tell me if this is true, Angela. Once you get them pre-approved, all of a sudden they want to buy a house within the next 30 days. Right? Do you get that? It seems like, which is fine, which is good, right? For a realtor, you're like, oh, what? I think you said in 6 months.
It becomes more real. It becomes more real. Like, oh, I'm approved.
It is. It happens every time. At least for me, it's almost like, it's coming in fruition. Like it's real. Like they look at it like it's a blank check. Like I can exchange this piece of paper for $500,000 house. And you're like, yeah, let's do it, and you're caught off guard because I'm thinking in my brain, like, well, in the spring, we're going to have to start looking for cousin David and his new house. And then all of a sudden you're tromping through snow at Christmas looking for one. So be ready because that happens. Now, just whatever time frame, and let them kind of control that ship. Don't be pushy and say, well, you got the pre-approval, let it go. Now, one question I want to get until we get into once we get into the contract, pre-approval letters. I get this question all the time from students at Hondros and agents and stuff is, well, the pre-approval letter is only good for so long. So if we're at Thanksgiving and he wants to buy a house and then we're at New Year's Eve and he wants to start looking, how long is this pre-approval good for? Angela, you want to take that one?
So usually the pre-approval is good for, it's good through the credit report. So it's really tied to the credit report.
Okay.
The credit report at Revolution Mortgage is 120 days. There are some other lenders.
Yeah.
There's some that's only 90. There's some that can go 6 months. So it really just depends on the credit report and that company's policy.
Okay. So, so at 120 days go by. So it's say legit, like they just want to wait 6-7 months. They get pre-approved, and you get to that 119 day, whatever it is, almost at the expiration date. Do they go back and they still want to buy a house? They're just something's going on with work and they just don't have time. Do they go back in? Should you go back in and say, hey, let's get it updated again?
Definitely, because things can change within 4 months. Maybe
Oh,
they've bought a car. Maybe
oh boy.
they
Oh
maybe
boy.
they have another credit card and they took a vacation and now it's higher than expected and their debt to income ratio doesn't work. So I would highly suggest, if after it expires, they want to look at more houses, let's continue the process and pull your credit.
And how long does that take? Is it literally, can I, as the agent, call you and say, hey, Angela, hey, cousin David wants to buy a house. I know it's been over 120 days. Can you update it for him real quick? We're going out next weekend. Or does David
I'll take that call? Yeah, so I can take that call and then call David and make sure everything is okay on his end, and seeing if his employment has changed. Maybe he switched jobs. Maybe he's no longer W-2 and maybe he's 1099. I mean, that plays a big part into everything. So I'm re-looking at the full application again.
Okay. And then, as agents, we tell people, like, if you're going to buy a house in the next 6 months, like, don't change anything. Don't put credit card debt. Don't rack up debt. Don't get a car. Yeah. Oh, you hear it all the time that during the contract period, they buy a car.
Yes.
So we don't want to do that.
And they feel that because they bought a car and maybe the payment is lower than the ones before, it's fine, but that lowers your credit. And maybe you were just at the qualifying level and that pool brings you lower now.
Yep. Totally understand. So, okay. So got the pre-approval letter. We're going out looking for a new house for David, and we find one. And we have that pre-approval letter. We get in a contract. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to be one of the first people to know, right? We're going to email that contract to you, the lender, and say, hey, Angela, we're in contract. Here's the contract. Get started.
Right.
So now my question to you is, and let's be honest, I know you're nice and you're going to be sweet about this, but how much do you want us involved in this process? Because as agents, we can't do anything. We can't hit the buttons. We can't, you know what I mean? Like we're kind of just, we're out on this island, mentally supporting our client through everything. So how much do you want us involved? Legit.
So I don't mind an agent, especially if they're a newer agent and they just want to see the process unfold for the first few times.
A learning experience.
I'm 100% okay with that. But I will also send out email milestones. The app will send out milestones. So you'll know exactly where that loan is at any given moment, because you would have received an email from me, or you would have seen the app telling you, oh, it's with the processor. Oh, it's with the underwriter. It's been conditionally approved. So you'll know, but I will also send out information. Now, there are some realtors that want to stick with me throughout the whole process, and they need information about when the appraisal was ordered, when the appraisal order was accepted, and when it completed. And like, there are more involved, and that's fine, but you'll know the big milestones without having to come to me.
Okay, that's great. But let me preface it. Attention all realtors, that doesn't happen with every lender. Okay. So, you're not going to get the milestones. One thing though, that I think it's okay, and just do it gently. Because remember, Angela and I are the same team. We all have the same goal, and everyone does. Everyone wants to close the deal. So don't frustrate her. But one thing is that I tell agents is, you can chime in once in a while. But the biggest thing is, and what I do is like, hey, let me know if you need anything. What I do is maybe once or twice, maybe say, hey, listen, and a lot of this sometime, and this happened to me recently, and this was not the lender's fault. This was the appraiser. We ordered the appraisal, because there's appraisal is part of the process that Angela handles. The bank goes out and appraises the property. Now the problem is now you got another person involved, right? You got this like third wheel. If you look at me, Angela, then this appraiser or whatever, it's a third wheel, and we have no control over the appraisers. And after the predatory lending laws, what 12 years ago now, they made it really clear. Realtors, you don't talk to those appraisers, because what we were doing was we were going to the appraiser and say, hey, buddy, I need this house to appraise for $500,000. And, maybe I give them a little money. Or Angela's like, listen, if you don't get this house appraised for $500,000, then I'm not using you again. And that appraiser felt pressure to inflate
Produce
numbers. Yeah, right. And that happened all the time. And then it got us into issues, right? So you have an appraiser that sometimes Angela puts the order in saying, hey, I need an appraisal done. And you just aren't getting the appraiser. The appraiser hasn't been out to the house. And as you're getting near, closer to the end of your deal, the agent needs to be like, hey, something doesn't seem right. The appraiser hasn't been out yet, and we close in a week or two. That isn't, and then that's okay. It's not Angela's fault, but it's okay to reach out to your lender and say, hey, they haven't even scheduled a time yet. And that's weird to me. Or whatever it may be, and you'll get that, you'll feel that process a little bit better after your first deal. But don't just, the app that Angela's talking about is awesome, but very few people have that.
Right.
Okay, and there's a lot of lenders.
I would say too, in regards to the appraisal. So I know that the company that we work for, work with for the appraisers, they communicate just like we do throughout the process. So I'll know when the link was sent out to the borrower for payment. I'll know when the payment has hit. I'll know when it's been scheduled. I'll know when it's been completed, and I'll know when the report is back. So there is milestones for me along the way too. So I can't say that ball, like I would ever drop that ball, because I can see the process and know oh, there's some disconnect. Maybe we can't get a hold of the listing agent. Maybe we're calling the wrong number for them.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah. Or the seller lives in the house and they're just not picking up the call, because the appraiser just won't come out and knock on your door and say, I'm here. They're going to schedule it, so, okay. All right. So I think good practice is touch base is fine every week, a week or two. That wouldn't make you crazy. Right, Angela? If they did just say, is everything okay? And there's nothing we can do as realtors except one thing: support your loan officer. Because sometimes you'll have your buyer come to you and say, oh, Angela, she wants me to do this and that. And you say, listen, I told you so. Like I told you that some of this stuff seems silly, right? But Angela doesn't make the rules. She's just following the rules. So you're compliant with the standards of the loan, and we're not going to get into Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae stuff today, but there's just rules. And if you don't do those, because she's asking you for information to satisfy those rules, and if you don't do it, then you will not get the loan. That's it. Case in point, and what's worse is you might be out a lot of money, not only the house that you might love, but you might be out your inspection money. You might be out of your appraisal money because you don't want to give up a bank statement. And I had a client do that. They just, their ego or something, they just didn't want to do it. And honestly, I felt that they just didn't want to buy the house. So that was an excuse, but you got to let your clients know whatever she needs, you got to give it to her. Even if you think it's stupid and frustrating, you just need to do it, or you don't get your money. So, anything else, Angela Reid, before we get off?
No, that's it. So, I would suggest a strong contact with me getting the contact information, as well as you giving them my contact information, as well as, so once that happens, I'll get the pre-approval, you find the house, and we're at the closing table.
There we go. All right. And also too, one thing I did miss is your lender will let you know how long it'll take to do that, the process from start to finish. Please don't give an unrealistic expectation to your seller when you say, "Oh yeah, we'll have it done in a couple weeks." So that's because it's not true. So Angela, with that being said, how do they get a hold of you if they want
So
to
you
reach out?
can text or phone 614-893-3214. That's my personal cell phone number. I take
Okay.
work calls on there. Or you can email me at areid, and my Reid is spelled REID, at revolutionmortgage.com.
All right. Well,
And I'll be
excellent.
happy to help.
Okay. Well, thanks again. Make sure you like and subscribe. We're on Facebook at Ashmont Realty and also on YouTube as well. We throw a lot of great realtor tips out there for new agents and existing agents that help them in their real estate career. So, well, thank you again, Angela, for being on this episode of Ashmont Live exclusively on Facebook. And again, make sure you like and subscribe, everybody. Happy Friday. Football's in the air, kids back to school. So I will see everybody all real soon. See you guys.